Welcome to Pop Cult. I'm Polyakov.
And I'm Monika Walker.
And we're here to talk to you about Sonic the Hedgehog today, and about all the occult elements that are inside of it that you may not be aware of.
We're going to run through some of the basic imagery, some of the symbolistic language in terms of gameplay, and some of the different characterizations that make Sonic one of the more interesting games of its genre. Sonic the Hedgehog has been one of my favorite video game characters for years, and I know it's been one of yours.
Absolutely.
And he is a lovely little blue hedgehog who can run faster than anything I've seen. And
he destroys robots, inside of whom are all these little
baby
creatures.
animals.
Yeah, these little animals who couldn't defend themselves, so they got trapped in these robot bodies. He goes from one level to another, destroying the robots, collecting rings, getting those emeralds, and fighting the evil Dr. Robotnik.
Lev came to me one day, very excitingly,
talking
about the classic image of Sonic the Hedgehog, the age-old emblem.
So when you start playing Sonic 1, and you see Sonic pointing up with the ring around him, with the wings being spread out, and with the ribbon, we've seen that before. And we've seen that in Zoroastrianism, in the symbol of the Farbahar, where instead of Sonic the Hedgehog, we have this bearded guy who also happens to be holding a ring, and he's got the wings, and he's got the ribbon, and he's got the finger pointing up.
This particular gesture that Sonic does, the hand pointing up,
yeah.
And that is a very Zoroastrianism, undeniably Zoroastrianism gesture. And it means that he is pointing and directing all of his energy to the origin, to the center of this kind of cosmic center of everything.
The spreading of the wings happens at the top of the caduceus. And what's the caduceus? The caduceus is the symbol that we see all the time in all the hospitals and medical related things.
It's an ancient symbol for Kundalini.
Mm-hmm. Kundalini is this spiral energy that's coiled in the
base of the spine.
Base of the spine, and then when you start working on yourself by meditating, by breathing, by doing anything to wake this thing up, it starts going up your spine, and that helps
rising
yeah.
The 7 chakras.
The 7 emeralds.
There you go.
Not only do we have the Farbahar logo, but we also have hedgehogs being considered to be a sacred animal in Zoroastrian culture.
Right, hedgehogs themselves were sacred for many reasons, probably the most prevalent of all being pest control.
Yeah, just like in ancient Egypt, you had cats, so we have yet to see a good cat game. I don't really know of one, but someday. In
a way, Sonic is the typical bad versus good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you have, Sonic representing the force of good and sort of this force of environmentalism and nature.
Eventually there's going to be an end times battle where good is going to defeat evil, and we've seen this thousands of times before. We see that evil represented in Dr. Eggman.
The Dr. Eggman.
Dr. Eggman. Like, you could call him evil, but you could also call him just a being who's very preoccupied with the ego. Somebody who's just put layers and layers on top of himself, much like an egg. Like, he is both a man and an egg.
Egg. Ego.
Ego, exactly. Ego man. I am the Eggman.
It's like that survival instinct kind of getting attached to reason.
Mm-hmm.
And how that can go awry, and often does. But at the same time, Dr. Eggman is another force of the other side of nature,
mm-hmm.
of the survival instinct, of this encasing layer, which leads ultimately to this mechanical setup that he has.
And just like today, we're living in what people call the Kali Yuga, where a lot of focus is on the physical.
The material.
The material.
Knock on wood.
And so all this material ends up getting built out more and more and more, and all of a sudden, not only are you encased in this chubby body, but now you're encased in this floating ship that then gets encased in all kinds of other extra ships, which you use to try to defeat Sonic, which then gets encased into this giant spaceship called the Death Egg, which hovers around the Earth.
And how many layers are there to the egg, in other words? And how many different ways do you need to distract yourself from your inner being?
From getting reborn.
That's right.
Let's talk about the levels and Let's talk about the levels in the first Sonic game.
Really feels like a really quick metaphysical tour through the ages of man.
Starting from Mother Nature, which is the very first level, Green Hill Zone. Like, it's very simple, very grassy, and it has the checkerboard pattern in it as well. And the checkerboard pattern has a lot to do with Freemasonry.
It's been associated with the game of chess, but it's also been associated with the Temple of Solomon itself, that was said to have a checkerboard flooring. Sort of a yin and yang idea, where, you know, you have the space and the holes. This is it's almost like
very binary.
It's a binary symbol almost. So it's very much like a starter zone, but it's also about laying a foundation. That's kind of what that goes along with.
Then we go to Marble Zone, which is an ancient ruined civilization type place. So
right, so it's going from hunter and gatherer sort of to like the first inklings of society, maybe like Egyptian,
or Atlantis.
Maya, Atlantis.
Then we have Spring Yard Zone, and that's kind of like a modern city type place, right here, right now, this life, and it's a pinball game. You're constantly getting shifted up, down, left, right, and you don't really have that much control.
It's like us right now, who are in this modern world, who are being buffeted by all these like really huge forces that are playing on like everybody, you know what I mean? Like politics, like this, and then like media, boom, 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 boom. To be able to find your way to your inner voice amidst all this noise.
The only way that he can start to have a better grasp of it is to go into his Labyrinth, which is the next zone, Labyrinth Zone. And that is not a fun zone to be in.
No, but it definitely represents, like, you realize you're in a pinball, you realize you're in a machine, you realize this, and then you have to find a way out. This search for meaning.
But that situation Sonic has to go through in order to finally get out of there, and then he finally gets some relief where he's able to speed around at a very, I think, like the fastest Sonic has ever gone in Sonic 1 is in Starlight Zone, which is zone right afterwards, which is very beautiful. It's got those stars in the sky, it's got this nice cityscape underneath. It just looks really, really gorgeous. And there, Sonic is finally able to take a break. There's not that many enemies there. It's, you know, it's a nice place. Like,
right.
I wouldn't mind being there. Like, it's not nature, but as far as what humans are able to do with the city,
right.
It's a great representation of, like, a good future, if you can call it that.
It has a lot of details reminiscent of the pinball level, but they're much smoother.
Absolutely.
It's almost like now that he got through that labyrinth of his internal mechanism, he can see the outside world in a much more holistic, and even though it's angry, these modern technology stuff, it's much more pleasant.
Absolutely.
And
For now. Until we get to the final level. Once he's able to have his Hakuna Matata moment in a Starlight Zone, then he's finally ready to face his destiny and face the hardest thing that he has faced, which is a Scrap Brain Zone. Basically a representation of all the most horrible, toxic things we could possibly imagine in this one zone, going into the metal, going into the technology, gone crazy, and it's not a pleasant place to be in, but Sonic's able to go in there and get Eggman.
He flies through it.
He flies through it.
That's the idea.
Well, until he gets trapped
yes.
at the very end, the very end of the level, Eggman goes in there, he presses a button, and he sends Sonic back into the labyrinth.
So Sonic is thrust back into the labyrinth zone, but this time it's a little bit different, right? It's the colors are kind of muted. Like, this is like what happens to anybody on a spiritual journey. Like, you're gonna reach some point where you plateau, where you feel like, oh my god, I've actually regressed spiritually. Everybody, I don't care if you're the yogiest yogi in the world, There's no path to enlightenment that goes like this. There's none. None. What they're saying is like you're gonna have pitfalls, but even at those pitfalls, you're still gonna be better off than when you were over here at the same level.
And you're still getting metaphysical stuff. The water, it's not green anymore. Now it's purple.
Purple, which is higher enlightened color connected with the crown chakra.
That's why you're wearing it.
Yes, purple.
And the checkerboard pattern.
Yes.
And it's an interesting design of level 2, where you start from here, and you have to go all the way through this complicated maze, but then you end up very, very close to where you first started.
Right. And ultimately, Sonic goes all the way up. And what he does is he frees Eggman. He frees the ego. He destroys the casing around the ego. He destroys the false identification. He destroys the roboticism. And in its wake, he leaves nakedness. As the more and more that Eggman fights against rules, the more and more he encases himself in new rules.
Unlike the other crafts that he had where he can move around, he can fly up, down, left, right. Here he's kind of stuck. Like he can only go up and down. The only thing that he can choose is, do I go into 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Or, to me, it doesn't even seem like he's choosing. To me, it seems like he just, got into one escape pod, and that's what the program does. It puts him in a bunch of different escape pods.
But he's not able to escape. He still has to fulfill his destiny of trying to destroy.
He's completely caught in his own machine. In new rules that have his own invention.
Well, that's the idea we talked about before about demons, how the lower you go as far as entities go, the more rules these demons are going to have to follow. And it doesn't even mean that when they're following those rules, they're necessarily not aware that they're playing these roles. But they don't have a choice anymore. But Sonic frees him. In the end, that's what ends up happening. Just like Sonic ends up freeing all those poor animals from the containment units that they're in at the end of each level. Finally, in the end, what happens? Sonic destroys that contraption, and he frees Eggman, and Eggman flies away. But then you have a problem. If you did not collect the emeralds in the first game, it was 6, but then in the next games from Sonic 2 onwards, it was always 7. But the point still is that if you did not collect the emeralds, you did not get a happy ending. You still have to play it again. And the game automatically resets. Just like in life, we are born, we live, we die, and then reset. You're born right now, and then you die, but then you come back because you still haven't fulfilled what you have to fulfill. And what you have to fulfill is not getting caught up in this whole cycle of death and rebirth. And the only way that you cannot get caught up is by working on yourself. And one way that you can work on yourself is by merging the astral world with the real world. And that's what Sonic ends up doing when he ends up going into these astral dimensions called the special stages, where what it looks like is it's spinning. Everything is spinning just like Sonic spins. He has visions of birds, of fish, of all these geometric shapes, like things that are related to Sonic, things that Sonic knows about. And when Sonic goes through that giant gold ring and goes into that astral world and finds that emerald and then finds the other emerald and the other one and so on and so on and so forth, when he gets all the emeralds, he wins the game. He gets enlightened. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience.
This has been our first episode of Pop Cult, and if you liked it, let us know what kind of video game or pop cult exploration you want us to do.
We're fresh, we're new, we'll do anything.
We're thinking about Harry Potter, Sailor Moon,
Dragon Ball Z.
Let us know which one you'd like to see next. And if you want to see an animation by Lev, you can click right there.
And if you want to see Monika's amazing band, The New Tarot, click over here.
And if you want to see Lev animating a music video by my band, you can click right here.
Click over there.
Yeah!